find yourself a sponsor, and a sponsor is different to a mentor. A sponsor is somebody that's going to advocate for you when you're not, in these settings or these senior tables, and she has been my advocate throughout the years. Just in terms of HR support will vary by industry.
Mm-hmm.
Banking in particular is really challenging because we're heavily regulated. So because of what happened with the financial crisis, we have the regulators on our backs just to make sure that we don't have another situation where employees make the wrong decisions, which can have an impact on society as a whole, as we remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, look, HR is quite broad and there's different parts to it, right? There's just the general employee support part to it, but there's also the strategic, crisis management. If you think about what's going on at the moment with the invasion of Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
Very sadly, we have employees who have many relatives in Ukraine, and we also have Russian employees. So kind of working through the complexities of that.
And communicating to the wider community. And also, do you take a side? Like, you can't really take a side.
Can't take a side. You've got to be completely impartial. You can't bring your political views to work.
Wow.
But you've also got to be supportive to both sides. So the regulatory piece is really interesting, especially from a compensation standpoint. I know our bankers over the years have had a lot of media scrutiny around how they're paid. So there's a lot of that. There's lots of location strategy where we're moving people from different countries for cost saving or driving efficiencies. There's diversity, equity and inclusion. That's a big one for us at the moment, especially given that I think the financial services sector as a whole, there's a lot more that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for my team, for what we do, because we're partnering with the senior leaders, it's a different type of, I guess, HR, as it were, because you're actually working with them on, their overall strategic goals, which can be quite interesting and quite complex. People are surprised, especially the regulatory stuff. Look up something called CRD4 and see if you can try and understand it.
Yeah, we'll put that on there. We'll put the link under. Anyone that leave us a comment, let us know what you thought. That would be cool to see what that's about. I'm assuming it's HR, right? So it's going to be like a 50, maybe 100-page document, right?
Yes.
Loads of jargon, loads of great stuff.
Yes.
Awesome. We'll check that out. So you're now a HR advisor at this bank.
Yeah.
How are you feeling in terms of career trajectory? What's the vision? Like, where do you want to be? Are you saying, okay, I'm an advisor now. In 5 years, I'm going to be X. 10 years, I'm going to be X. Or is it just, let's see how it goes?
So I knew I definitely wanted to become, I guess, a more senior HR advisor, what we call, many organisations call them HR business partners or HR business advisors. And I mean, I wasn't necessarily looking, actually. It was the same friend who got me the job at Barclays moved to the company that I'm at today. She told me about this opportunity. So I applied and I got it. But it was a more senior HR advisor role. And so, see, the company that I was at before this one was a UK bank. This was a US international, had, I guess, more sexier parts of banking, like investment banking, which was really appealing to me. So I decided to apply and I got the role.
Why was it appealing to you?
I guess probably a bit more fast-paced. The products that the investment banking sector, so whether that be sales, trading, or corporate banking, IBD, just was a lot more complex than what I was covering in terms of the clients at the previous company. So it was I found it quite interesting just to learn a bit more about that sector.
Awesome. So you now are at this tier 1 investment bank. And I think we can call it tier 1 investment because it's the 1% of the 1%, which is exciting. So did you know where you were going did you know the caliber of company you were going to when you applied for the role?
Yes. I mean, it was like, one of the top
Any
globally.
imposter syndrome? Did you feel a way about it? It was like, yeah, fine, I'm good to go.
I guess because I was still quite early-ish in my career, it wasn't necessarily something that I thought about at that time, in all honesty. I was just very excited. I also knew somebody who worked there and she was really enjoying it. So, and as I went through the interview process, the team that I met with, I got a really good vibe from them. So I knew I'd probably enjoy it.
Cool.
And 12 years later, I'm still there.
Exactly. So what causes someone to stay at the same organization for 12 years? Because statistics say at the moment, millennials will change jobs 7 times in their lifetime.
Yeah.
But you seem like you're following a different path because you're 12 years in at one organization. So why did you stay?
A number of reasons. So I think firstly, just the people and, you know, the culture, the people, which obviously makes the culture. I think it's an organisation that, despite the success of the bank, you know, it's really big on respect, integrity. It's, you know, you work with some of the smartest people that you'll ever come across. But it's just, you know, for me working in HR, I've never felt like a second-class citizen with them. You know, I've always felt that they value me, they want my input, you know, that I've got a seat at the table.
Wow.
So I think for me, having that, whereas I know many friends, people that I know in the industry have worked in roles whereby they haven't necessarily had that, right? So I think the people, the culture of respect, and then I think in more recent years, since having a family, being in an environment where I get a lot of flexibility has been really key for me. So I would say, yeah, a couple of reasons.
Mm-hmm. So let's dig in, because I want to talk about, because you mentioned something about the people.
Yeah.
So how important is it to work, well, how is it important in an organization to know that, because some people can endure a company because of the benefits or the comp, but then from a well-being perspective, how important is it to be in an environment where you like the people?
I actually think it's the number one.
Really?
Like you absolutely, because you spend most of your time with these people, more time than your family and your loved ones, right? So you really do need to get on with the people that you work with.
So do you think then, if you're, like someone's watching, they're in an environment where they've maybe tried to put effort to get to know people, you know, but it's not working, is that a reason to move on and try and find another organisation?
Not necessarily, because, I mean, it depends on how big your organisation is. The organisation that I work for, which has over 260,000 employees, it just might be your team. It might just be your manager who's an idiot, right, or your colleagues. So I would say, no, don't necessarily leave. Certainly look into other areas, which you can do through networking, and, you know, just try other areas within your firm before making that jump.
Awesome. Now, talking about the big subject, don't know why I'm making it like this, but the big subject is you're a black female in a male-dominated industry.
Yes.
And in a white-dominated environment or company.
Yeah.
How was that like in terms of the desire to progress? Did you see people in front of you that inspired you, or that gave you the hope that, oh, maybe I can get to where I want to get to in X time frame? Or was it something that was like, was going to be a bit tricky?
I didn't have any role models at all.
Wow.
Yeah, over the years. Well, certainly not within my department.
Yeah.
I am one of 2 black executive directors in my department and in my region. So, no, I didn't really have much, just in terms of...
Did it affect you though?
Did it affect me? Look, I think I've definitely been really fortunate to work within HR, right?
Yeah.
HR is a nice department to work with. I know many people who haven't had that. There was one particular lady who actually isn't black. She's a white woman who has been a great sponsor to me over the years. So that's one thing that I would call out. Find yourself a sponsor. And a sponsor is different to a mentor. A sponsor is somebody that's going to advocate for you when you're not, you know, in these settings or these senior tables. And she has been my advocate throughout the years. As I said before, she isn't black, she's a white woman. But I do think having her, you know, in my corner over the years has been helpful.
Excellent. Having a sponsor is key. And then in terms of working with people who are intelligent,
Yeah.
I feel like, how can I say this without getting cancelled?
God, what are you
So
saying?
when you work with people who are smart,
Yeah.
doesn't it do something to you that you know that you're working with people that are kind of, there's something else that when someone is intelligent, you bounce off of them in a different way to someone that's just doing a job and they don't really care and they're not really driven. But when someone is super sharp, it does something to you, or it does something to me.
What do you mean, just motivate you?
Yeah, so when you work with people that you know, the fact that you can call out and you say, I work with some of the smartest people in the world,
Yeah.
that's like a plus.
Yes.
But I feel like no one actually thinks about that. We just think about job description, benefits. Like, do we think about when we apply for a role, okay, this person has created this, or this person has done this deal, or, you know, they've done something that's very difficult. We don't really search for that stuff, but that stuff affects the way we work. Awesome. And now to go back to the big question. So you're a mummy.
Yes.
Excellent.
Mum of 3 kids.
And
Under the
you
age
have
of 5.
twins.
I do.
You have this silent drive that you're not overtly expressing, but you're driven.
Yes.
You're now saying, I want to have a family, and you're a female. So you have to make this decision. How do I raise a family and build a career? So what was those kind of conversations with your husband? How did that, like, did you say, were you one of those people that said, I'm going to have children at this time, needs to be done, I'm going to put them in a nursery, or blah, 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 or what was the conversation about?
Yes. So I thought I'd basically map everything out. Like, I'd get pregnant, like we got married, enjoy a couple of the years being together, and then have kids, and then, you know, just have everything organised or planned out. But it didn't work out that way. I had many years of challenges with infertility, which meant that actually from a career perspective, interesting enough, I got promoted whilst I was on maternity leave. Sorry.
Wow.
So I made it to executive director whilst I was on maternity leave with my twins. So in some ways, it didn't really have a negative impact because I didn't fall pregnant as quickly as I thought I would. So during those years, my focus was on my career.
But you were so focused on your career, but how did you feel about the lack of input? Like, how did that feel?
Awful.
So how do you go to work? How do you keep going? Like, how do you keep...
I think everyone's different, and for me it was a nice, it was a good distraction just to kind of focus on my career and make positive impact. So yeah, it was, I know some people would have dealt with it differently. For me it was, right, well, this is the situation that I'm in. I'm a Christian, so I have faith, and I just had to like continue to believe that it would all work out, and it did in the end.
So when you found out you were pregnant, and obviously you're just happy to have the one,
right?
And then you see 2. What's going? How do you feel about that?
I have to say, we were kind of like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're having 2 kids, like to the point in which I had to get a second scan because I didn't believe it. I was like, no, there's no way that there's 2 fetuses in there. There's absolutely no way. Obviously delighted to have just fallen pregnant, given years of struggle with that. But yeah, we were shocked and quite a tiny bit stressed.
And when navigating wife, senior executive, mother, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
Because you're giving a lot at work.
Yeah.
Because you're senior. And I'm assuming especially because you're senior, you do a lot more coaching than doing, right?
Yes, lots of coaching, providing oversight, and you know, there's all sorts of things that come my way, and I've got to just be calm and kind of deal with it. And then you get home, and then you've got these 3 little human beings who are like, yeah, like just
raring to go.
I know. So you don't really I don't have much of a break. Mentally, I'm just kind of like constantly on the go.
So what do you do to have crystal time?
I've actually started to exercise recently. I mean, You've been
doing it for years. Don't sound like you just started. That's a
okay.
lie. Because I was going to look at you and say, have you just... Nah.
In terms of being disciplined around it.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't before. I was like kind of like up and down and like just sort of... But recently I've just invested in a cross trainer, and I'm like 5 days a week I have to do it. I do it every morning. I wake up early. In fact, I got some tips on that from your other half on exercise. So, and just, trying to get disciplined around it. So I think that's really helped.
So do you do, because obviously I know you can be consumed in it. So you do exercise, that's one way. But mentally, how do you have a break? Do you do spa days? Do you go on holiday?
No, I don't have much time. Like people ask me, how do you manage it all? And I'm like, I don't know. It's by the grace of God. Like I just take each day as it comes, each day at a time. But I am also really grateful because at one point I didn't think I'd have 1 child, let alone 3.
Yeah.
So I have to be grateful for, despite how challenging it is, I am grateful for the opportunity to become a mum.
And how was your organisation when it comes to being a mummy and having those those challenges? Sometimes you're at work and then you get the call, oh no, but then you Did you get promoted when COVID?
No, I got promoted before COVID.
Okay.
But I had my third child during COVID, so that was actually really helpful for me. So Leo, our third child, surprise, like we did not plan him at all. So yeah, that was really stressful because we didn't know how we were going to cope with 3 kids at the time, 3 kids under the age of 3. So COVID was actually a blessing in disguise for me, having the time to, working from home, and he was 6 months when I went back to work. So it meant that I could be around a bit more, even though he was being looked after by my mum at the time.
Excellent. So you're in this senior position now. So how long did it take you to get to ED?
Okay, so I got promoted to ED 4 years ago now, so about 10 years.
Is that a normal time frame, or is that quick?
It is relatively quick. 10 years for me, for my peer group, probably was quicker than average, but I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes the norm soon.
Yeah, of course. So you get there in a time quicker than most. What did you do to get there so quickly?
I didn't have sponsorship. I didn't have like a plan necessarily. My mum was always, and my grandfather actually, just always advised me to, work hard, be humble, be a sponge, show willingness to help. But I think I was reflecting on this actually, but I mentioned before about your personal brand. I think without me being conscious about it, I think I developed a personal brand quite early in my career.
Wow.
So I've always been the person that people kind of want on a project because I like to solve problems. And I think back to, being the eldest and being relied upon by my parents, being immigrants, I think that, and my siblings, I think that it's just a skill that I developed from a very young age, which I brought into the workplace.
So personal brand, so give me 2 things you think you did that developed your personal brand.
I think I would always put my hand up to get involved in things, always. And so it got to a stage where people were like, okay, let's just add Crystal then. Yeah, Crystal will be fine with it. I think people started to see me as someone that they could rely on.
Because you delivered?
Yes.
Right, you didn't oversell it. Oh yeah, I can do it. And also, did you put your hand up to things that you didn't have knowledge or experience in? So it was new scenarios or complexities?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I just think that, it might be a particular topic that you don't have experience in, but there are things that you can bring to the table. So for example, at the moment, we're doing, from an HR perspective, we're doing a ton of mergers and acquisitions where we're buying companies and we have to, integrating them into our firm. And over the years, I haven't really developed much M&A skills because it's not really something that we've done much in the region. But I know that I'm very organised, and I've got very good experience with managing or understanding employment law and the employee relations element to it. So being able to kind of join a working group like that to add value is great for the team, but also gives me an opportunity to learn new skills in a different area.
Legend. You actually do, like you said, you do a lot and you've achieved a lot. But you're just like, yes, this is what I did, this is what it is, it's like fine. But
Stay humble.
This is true. That's a skill set. You've got to learn that, right? You have to practice.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what's next for you?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it'd be nice. I don't have it on like my goals to become a managing director. Like I always thought I'd get to, that's the final, like the most senior corporate title. I always wanted to sort of get to executive director at some point. MD is really hard to get to that level. If I get there, great. If not, I've had an amazing time. I love the company that I work for. I love all the experiences working with the senior leaders. So yeah, so long as I just continue to get work that is fulfilling and is enjoyable, and I can look after my kids. They're expensive, as you will know.
Yep.
I'm happy.
So you don't want to join the C-suite?
No, I don't have it on my goals.
Why?
Specifically.
We need you. You'll be fine. I know.
A colleague of mine has said this to me a couple of times. It's like, why don't you should be having conversations about this? And I'm like, and it might be because my kids are young, and because it's so tiring having such young children. I think for me, having a good night's sleep is probably the number 1 priority at this point in my life. That might change in 5 years.
I feel you. I remember there was a 2-year period where I only slept 2 hours a day and still went to work as normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exhausting, isn't it?
So so obviously not putting you on the spot, no pressure. So eventually we could see you in the C-suite. Eventually. You're young.
I don't know. I don't know. I like
Because
what?
most C-suites are 45 plus, isn't it?
Yes.
You got time.
I don't know. We'll see. But one of somebody that I know actually, who is a very successful Black Nigerian trader actually, has recently gave me a bit of a pep talk, and he said, "Crystal, it's not about you. It's about it's not about us. It's about us, getting into these positions to show those that are much younger than us, the younger generation." For them to see representation and see why it matters. So you've got to stop thinking about yourself and think about the bigger picture. He gave me like a really stern talk.
Brilliant.
In a very Nigerian way.
Hilarious. We can interpret that at a different time. But no, it's been great to hear your story, and we're super proud that you've done all the stuff you've done, and we know greater things are ahead. And yeah, keep being great.
Thank you.
Also,
Thank you for having me.
No, it's been really good.
So I work with institutional investors. So these are the large institutions like the pension funds and insurance companies. And then when they have investment needs, they need experts to help them. So it's our job to deliver investment objectives and then help them navigate really what matters with the current market and what matters in the future.
Forward thinking.